Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another free Atlanta REIA Training Opportunity webcast. I'm your host, Dustin Griffin. Tonight's educational webcast is on turning trash leads into cash-flowing deeds with our good friend, Atlanta REIA business member, national speaker, and local real estate expert, Don DeRosa. Don, welcome to the webcast tonight.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Good. Thank you very much. I'm excited.
We're really glad.
We got such good feedback at the general meeting, so I guess that's what kind of prompted this.
Absolutely. Anytime you get up and speak or do anything with this, you get a lot of positive feedback. And if you guys are out there tonight haven't noticed by now, you know, Don loves to teach and he loves to talk about his iPad. And he's always very generous with his time, and he really goes out of his way to help our members and guests, and tonight is no different. Don's going to spend a little time tonight talking about how to properly analyze and structure deals and make offers on those homes in today's ever-changing real estate market. He's also going to talk about how he uses the iPad and his iPhone and some of the other latest and greatest apps to get that done. Now, tonight's not going to be an exceptionally long call, but he is going to give you some good, useful information. And if you like what Don has to say and what he teaches you, you're going to have the opportunity to return the favor later tonight and show Don your support by joining him at his upcoming workshop on Saturday, January the 28th, called the Mobile Real Estate Superstar Workshop. And I believe this is the first time Don has ever taught this training. It's a new product he's coming out with, a new set of training he's coming out with to teach people how to use mobile technology to become a superstar real estate investor, a superstar realtor or broker, or whatever it is you do using technology. And we're really excited to sponsor this upcoming workshop. It's going to be at the same hotel where we had the main meeting, at the Atlanta Perimeter Hotel on January 28th. And you know, a big part of Atlanta REIA's mission is to provide affordable, quality real estate education so that we can help you get your first deal or your next deal. And we're really excited about this upcoming workshop. We're offering it at the very, very affordable price of $10 for gold members, $20 for silver members, and $30 for guests. And this price is good for two people. So you can even bring someone who's not a member and take advantage of these prices. So it's going to be a great workshop. It is not a pitch fest. Don is our only speaker. And it's going to be a day packed full of information on how to buy and sell real estate using mobile technology. And Don is going to share a lot more about the workshop with you later tonight. And if you're interested in going reading more about it now, you can check out superstar.atlantareia.com, superstar.atlantareia.com. It's also listed there on the homepage and on our calendar. So check it out. Now, if you have any questions throughout tonight's presentation, don't hesitate to send them in via the GoToWebinar interface. And I'm going to pass those questions along to Don when it's appropriate. If he's in the middle of a roll, I'll wait till he's done or wait towards the end of the call to get your questions answered as best we can. So, Don, I know you have a lot of material to cover tonight. Thank you again for being here. We really, really appreciate it. Welcome back. I'm going to turn the screen over to you right now.
Okay.
And I'm going to mute my microphone. I will be here if you need me.
Okay.
So give me 1 second to swap screens.
While he's doing that, I'm going to let people know that I'll take that exceptionally low-priced offer for the seminar on Saturday, and I'll take it one step further to further take away any obstacles someone may have. That if you come to it, at the end of the day, if you don't feel it's worth the money that you spent, you come to me at the end and I'll refund your money. So that should give you enough incentive to at least want to check it out. That way there's a double guarantee. That. Let's talk about this for a second. Let me minimize this so I can get this off the screen. All right. Folks, if you're looking at this, what you're seeing right now is my iPad. Now, I'm not going to spend an enormous amount of time on the iPad tonight because that's not the purpose of the call. But I'm going to give you a little bit of background before we really get started. I've been using the iPad now probably a little over, well, ever since it came out, and what's it been out, maybe 2 years now? A little longer, a little shorter, I'm not sure. And I have virtually gone paperless, as paperless as anyone can be. And what we'll go over on Saturday is anybody that's interested, anybody that has any kind of smart device, I don't care if it's an iPad, an Android, you name it, whatever the smart device is, I want you to come and bring it. Because what we'll do is we'll have a small discussion there on what are some of the things that you should be using to make your life easier. We have a site coming out soon. We have one now for agents called mobilerealestatesuperstar.com, and that's primarily for agents. And for my students that are already customers of mine, we have the iMaster Real Estate site, but we're going to be creating a new site called, I make sure I get it right, Mobile Real Estate Rockstar for agents. So stay tuned for that, because that's going to give you all the iPad, mobile, not just iPad, but mobile training you need for your mobile device. So without really any further ado, let me explain to you some of the things. When you start looking at leads as they come in. Now on Saturday, I'm going to show you how to use a few online tricks and some for less than, I like to say less than $10, but realistically, I'll probably spend about $12 to $14, and I will literally have my phone ring about 60 to 80 times while we're in that Saturday seminar on that dollar amount from a marketing standpoint. So the beginning phases of any deal structuring is obviously getting your phone to ring, because without your phone ringing, if you only have one or two deals here, it becomes really, really hard to pick and choose what are the best deals. Because I have people tell me all the time, Don, how do you get such good deals? And the answer to that is, I got a lot of leads coming in, so I sift and sort and pick the ones that are the best. Okay, so what you have to first start and can get to is, and most people think that I do a lot of REOs. Which, truth of the matter is, lately, in probably the last 6 months, I haven't done any REOs. All my deals have come through private individuals that just want to sell their house. They just raise their hand and say, I need somebody to buy my house. So the object is to take all of that. Now, some are good, some are not so good. But the idea is to be able to take whatever comes at you and to be able to do something with it, if that makes sense. So as we go through this, if you have questions or comments, or even if you have a deal you want me to look at while we're on the call, by all means, put the question up there. If you have a microphone, I'm sure Duncan, I almost called you Duncan, Dustin. I got too many D's in my life. I got Duncan, Darren, and Dustin. And I always, it's like my two boys, I always call them the wrong name, and I say, whatever your name is, go do this for me.
I forgive you.
Anyways, I apologize. Dustin will probably can take you off mute if you want to explain the deal. So if you have a deal you want, by all means, feel free. So my information comes in. A lot of times I'll take it through my iPad. I'll actually take the call on my iPad. If you look over here on Vento, this is an app that I use to collect the data that I'm taking. And again, I don't want to get too much into this because this is not an iPad class, but I just kind of want to share with you all the information and what the capabilities of this is. Now, you'll see I scrolled through that pretty fast so you couldn't really see it, but I'll start at the beginning. All of this right here, this is how I buy, the buying method. All of this right here, as it scrolls down through, I collect on an ongoing basis. As I gather more information in, as I get more information, I plug it into here. And you'll see this little blue, looks like a spreadsheet down here in a second, pop up in the middle of your screen. you'll see where that comes in. So every deal that I do, I have it secured mobily. So when I go in, somebody asks me a question, I know, if you look off to the left, I know what's pending, what's dead, what's closed, what's under contract at any given time on all the deals that I'm working on. And I mean, I can scroll all the way down through here, and you can see rents. I identify rents and all the information, square footage, asking price, what's owed on it, who the lenders are, okay, at any given time. I can put notes in there. Like this was the deal that we talked about at the general meeting the other night. This was the one. And here's all the information that I collected. I have true comps that are there off FMLS. And then I have any attachments, like there's the authorization to release. There's some notes that she gave me that I wanted to keep so that when I needed to get my fingertips on it, it's there. Okay, so anyways, that's kind of how I set myself up. And that's just the basics. So I want to get into, let's take a deal, for example. I'm going to go in here to one of the apps called Pen Ultimate. This I use to draw on. And let me change the paper that I'm using from that. And if you can see that, let me see if you can see that paper. This is the paper that I created on my iPad. Let's see if there it is. It'll show up. I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but it shows the date, the ARV, the asking price, the amount owed, and so on and so forth. Now, when I tell people I have everything at my fingertips, even if you were to call me on the telephone, I would pull this up and I would take this information and on the fly if I had to handwrite it. So, I can do any of this just with my iPad and my stylus. I can just write as I write across the board. And, I can take the whole thing. I can also add a picture to it if I want. And let's say I pull in there. There's a lead that I can stick in there. That's one of my leads, for example. And I can have that permanently in there. And I can have an entire book with all my leads in it as a reference. So this just gives you an idea. So I want to take a look at this one right here, for example. This lead right here, let's take a look at this and say, okay, here we have a lead that is, all right, let me do one thing. And protect the innocent here. Okay, I don't really care about the address, but the names, I don't want you emailing these folks. But let's take a look at this. This is a lead, and we'll start from here, and we'll go. I'm assuming that everyone's going to be respectful and not contact these people, because these are actual real live leads. So here's 132, estimated value $50,000. Okay, now typically what I would do is, let me see if I can actually pull it up. When I do that, is this the right one? Is this the same one or a different one?
I think that one's different.
This one's different. Okay, let me see.
It looked like the email was different.
Yeah, let me see. Well, anyways, let me go back here. Let me just use this one, for example. Okay, I would click on the map in the upper right-hand corner, the address, and what it does is it typically takes me right down to street level. It takes me down to this. I hit the little red button. And before I leave my desk, I can go right down to street level. And I can actually drive down the neighborhood and see what these houses are. Now, people say, was that a recent picture? Probably not. but it doesn't really matter to me because what I'm looking for is anything that's glaring. So, and one of the things I wanted, since I have a little bit more time tonight, is to explain to you my thought process, how I would teach you as an educator to do your due diligence and how to work through a deal. Okay? So this would be one of those. I would go down to street level. I would actually, if I tap on that little arrow, I can actually drive up the street. So if I tap on that little arrow, I can actually drive up the street as far as this thing will let me. And I can look around and say, okay, if that's the house, let's say that's the house, that might be the house. Looks like it has a little burnout going on there. So that might be the house. I didn't really look at it, the address, but it gives me an idea. I can look around the neighborhood and go, is this a neighborhood that I would want to buy? My next question would be, what are the rents in the area? Okay. So let's take a look before I go. Let me back up a second and let me get a real snapshot of this. Okay. So whoops. So there's the lead right there. They say it's worth 112. So you might want to take a pen and pencil out and write some of these numbers down. So if the seller thinks it's a 3-2, they say it's between 1,800 and 2,000 square feet. I can tell you that's wrong. Now look down at the bottom. This date that this was posted here, it's back in 2010. I can show you a recent one, but this one just happened to be the one I pulled up. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So there's your information right there. So down here at the bottom where it says reason for selling, it says no hurry. Is the house listed? Yes. Are they current on payments? It says no, but then it doesn't have a mortgage on it. So in your due diligence, you would call them and find out if this information is actually correct. All right. So then, we go to I got to write down the address here. What did I? 601. Let's do this. What I typically do is go up and I select all in the upper corner. And when I do this, it's usually done in a matter of minutes. So I select all. And then I come down here, and the first thing I'll do is go into Zillow. Now, some people say, well, isn't Zillow really inaccurate? And the question is, yes and no. Zillow is fairly accurate when it comes to solds and asking, because it's pulling the same data that's out there on record. Okay, so if you look at, what is this? Sorry, I didn't grab the address. Apologize. Select all, copy. Paste. There we go. So when you look at this now, here's the snapshot. Now, what's the first thing that you see when you look at this? Now, I'm going to show you how Zillow works. And this is how most people go, well, this stuff isn't really accurate. If you look at Zillow and you look at these grayed out, you'll see red houses, you'll see yellow houses, and you'll see gray houses. The gray ones, that's what Zillow calls a zestimate. Those are garbage. The only reason I even have that up there is because I want to know where 601 Formwalt Street is. So I will tap on that and say, okay, there's 601. I'll tap on, you'll see it in a second. hopefully. Maybe not. Anyways, it's on the, if you look at kind of the middle of the screen where Formwalt Street goes and Glen Street pops together right there on the corner, you'll see one over there that says 54,000. That is actually 601 Formwalt Street. Okay. Now, what I'll typically do is I'll go up and I'll actually turn off those estimates. And I'm not sure why this is, why I've got a delay on this. Unfortunately, sometimes the problem with doing these webinars is they don't catch up enough. There we go. Good. So you'll see now, you'll see only red ones and yellow ones. Yellows mean they're sold, red means they're asking. So you can look at this and go, okay, well, anybody remember what the asking price was? I want to see a question up there. I want somebody to answer it.
I think it was like 110, wasn't it?
It was 112.
Okay.
I want to see if there are people out there wanting to participate in this. So anyways, you got 601. If you look to the right, you'll see 601 Formwalt Street. It's got a Zestimate of 54,000. That number means absolutely zero. Don't ever, ever, ever use that number. Okay?
You're talking about the Zestimate, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about the Zestimate where it says 54,300. Don't ever use that.
Ron Copeland asked what the Zestimate really means.
The Zestimate is a calculation they use based on a formula that they have, based on what houses are selling for, tax value, what the assessors have it set up for, and then it's a projected amount, what they think the house is worth. If you ever heard of a SWAG, scientific wild-ass guess, that's what this is. And it means it has no bearing on that property. Don't ever, 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 ever use that number. You rely on what is going on around that. What are the yellows and what are the reds? As long as you stay on those two colors, you're fine. So let's look up and down that street. So if I were to show you, let me pull the Zestimates back up. Okay, so you'll see it pop up in a second. And you'll see the gray ones. I turn the Zestimates back on. Now you see all those gray. That'll give you every home in that area. Okay, so when I move this, you're going to see a green dot. That's 601 Formwalt Street. That's where that property is located, right on the corner there. Or it looks like it's the second one in. Okay, it's got a pretty, let me see if I can make it bigger. Pretty slim lot. It's got a house behind it, so the lot doesn't go all the way through like the rest of them, which is probably why the Zestimate is a little bit lower than the house next door. But I really don't care. What I'm looking for right now, and people, what you have to understand is most people now, if they were to get that lead, and let's say this guy says, let's say it's a guy. I didn't pay attention whether it was a woman or man. And let's say that this person says, I want 112. If you can't give me 112, don't bother coming on. Most people, when I ask that question, would you go? And most people say, well, no, he told me if I can't give him 112, then don't even bother. There's your mistake. One of the things that you will learn from me very, very quickly is people react better in person. I've had people want 150,000 for their house, and when I'm through, I buy it for 30 grand. And people go, no way. I just did one the other day where the woman wanted $70,000 and I talked her into a $15,000 offer. I could never have done that over the phone. So when you start thinking about deal structuring, the first thing I can teach you is never deal structure over the phone. Because there are so many factors in a deal structure. Okay? Not only the numbers of the deal, that's the easy part. Anybody can sit in front of a calculator and go, okay, I've got my potential profit, I've got my expenses, I've got this, I've got all that, subtract all that out, here's what I can pay for it. Anybody can do that. When you want to be a transaction engineer and you want to be able to put together creative deals, you have to be able to read people's body language, both verbal and nonverbal. You can't do that over the phone. All you're going to see over the phone is verbal communication. You can't see the nonverbal. You don't have the ability to build rapport with them. You don't have the ability for you to walk out and them go, you know what, I really like that guy. Because I can't tell you how many times I've walked in with my competition where they think they're being smart and inviting a bunch of investors there at the same time. And most investors, they've been taught your time is valuable. You get in, you get out. You make the offer and get out. If they don't like it, too bad, on to the next deal. I think it's a huge mistake. If the numbers are there, and if the value is there, and if there's a deal to be had, and the right proper motivation is there, you have to have all those. It's worth your time. It's worth your time to spend. I mean, I'll spend 2 hours with a homeowner if the right combination is there. If I've got the right motivation and I've got the right house with the right amount of equity and the circumstances are right, I'll spend 2 days with them because I know my efforts are going to pay off. So now we start looking at, okay, well, let's look at this deal right here. It's not worth 112, is it? Of course not. So if you look, you've got 140, or I'm sorry, if you go up the street, let me turn that filter off. Because those numbers mean nothing. The only reason I even put it up there is just so I can see where it is on the street, to see how close it is. So you go down, if you look down in the bottom left-hand corner down there, you got a couple houses down there, one for $28,000. You got one off to the left for 32, one for 36, one for 24. Okay. Then on Formwalt Street, you have one for 42, one for 40, one for 90 that's sold, and one for 18. Now, if you take your finger and you touch on these, now some people say, well, Zillow looks differently on your iPad than it does on my computer. Zillow is very different on the iPad than it is on the computer. It's much easier to use on a mobile, not just the iPad, but any mobile device. It's much easier to use on a mobile device because it's simpler. You don't have as many things to worry about. Okay? Take a look at this $18,000 sale. It's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. Okay? Or so it says. According to the tax records, it's a 1-bedroom, 1 bath, 588 square feet. It's not near yours because, let's face it, yours was, let me turn this back on so I can see what the square footage is. So if I go down to this one, this square footage is 1,200 square feet for this house. There's your stats over there on the right for this house. 1,200 square feet, lot size is 3,900 feet. You keep going down, forget about, remember you see 54,000, that's his estimate, forget about that. Okay, you also see a range of 21 to 108, forget about that. You don't really want that. All I'm looking for on this, I don't even really pay attention to the paid or to the price history on this. What I'm looking for is concrete information. I'm looking for property tax information. So if you look down there, it's 2010 property tax for that house, $1,217. So I write that number down. Now, it will give you a little trend up there for 1 year, 5 year, 10 year. You can see all that stuff trending down. Well, guess what? When you see it trending down, that means that sooner or later, it's going to trend back up. It can't keep going. It's going to trend back up. So I'm okay to see those numbers. Most people run from that, and they go, oh, wow, this is a declining area. Well, it's declining right now, but there's only so far it's going to go down. As long as on that street there's not boarded up houses, you'll have people live in there. But if I go down there and there's 3 or 4 houses on that street alone boarded up, I'm not buying it. I don't care what the price is. I look at a street in an area and look at how many boarded up houses there are. Okay, so hopefully I'm not talking too much about that, but I want you to understand how I think. So I'm going to touch the $90,000 house. You got a house that's sold for $90,000. There it is right there. Now, that's a pretty nice house for 90 grand. Touch on the picture, and you can see that. Now, one of the nice things I like about this is I can actually do a little mini virtual tour on this. People love pictures. And I can see what 90 grand buys. And that's a pretty darn nice house for 90 grand. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, 90 grand for that house? That's strong.
Yeah, that looks pretty good.
That looks very good. Okay? Now, I can guarantee you that's someone that bought, fixed up, and resold. Probably. Although maybe not, because there's a lot of stuff in there. But that's a nice house. Okay? So that's what 90 grand gets you. So let's go down to a more realistic, because that's not a house. That's not what it looks like. So let's go down to the $42,000 house. $42,000 house doesn't have anything. Same size lot. Square foot of the house. I don't know what the bedrooms are nor the baths. And let's go down to another one. This one's 1-1 for 40 grand, so it says. Okay? So, in my opinion, this house will probably sell for around 40 grand. Will I price it at that? No. Will I buy it at that? No. I will probably go in telling them that the price of this house is probably going to be somewhere south of that, probably somewhere around 30 grand. I can justify $30,000. I can justify 30 in the 30s. Okay? But you're saying, well, Don, it's almost worth that. How do you make money at that? Well, I look at a couple different things. Now let's take a look at, last night we talked at the Atlanta North subgroup. That was a topic of conversation. There's I look at it, there's really more than one way to value a property. Okay? The industry standard is going to be, you'll hear a lot of people talk about cap rate. Okay, cap rate this, cap rate that. People are looking for this kind of cap rate. Well, there's a lot of what I will call foreign money coming into the United States and buying property based on a cap rate. So my suggestion, if you want to get an idea before you start buying of what you can sell it for, figure out reverse engineer it, for example. If you ask an agent, hey, I got investors coming in and they want a 15% cap rate. Okay, well, most people don't even know what the hell a cap rate is. Okay, so as luck would have it, there's an app for that. You don't really need to know what it is. And if you do want to know, just go look it up on the internet. Okay, but it's basically, you've got the net operating income over rate and value. That's kind of the gist of it. I use this simple calculator. So if you look at net operating income, what net operating income is, now mind you, this isn't really how I do it, but if I have to do it this way, if this is the language my ultimate buyer speaks, I need to understand this. So if he's looking for a 15% cap rate, I'm not going to argue with him. I'm going to say, okay, it's a 15% or it's an 18% or whatever. So let's say it's a 15% cap rate. What does that mean? How do you figure that out? How much can I actually pay for this property? Well, you take and you say, okay, so we need to gather all the facts. Let me go. So now we need to figure out what's going to be the net operating income. Now, obviously, there's a gross income and then there's a net income. Right now, I'm going to give you gross income. So if we go up here and we put the address for this house, now I'm going to use a different app. I'm going to paste that in and I'm going to hit search. It's going to load all of those. Take and draw my circle around that, and it's going to give me, those are the properties. I think that's where it is. Hold on. Let me back up. Let me clear that. Let me clear this for a second, fellas or ladies. Okay, all those pop up right there in a second. You'll see it in a second. Those are going to be the rentals. It's going to be your rental rate. So if I have to find out exactly where Formwalt is in this, so I could go in and find out. I'm not sure where it is. Let's see if there it is, right there. So I would take my little drawing tool and I would draw, I would draw right around Formwalt. Okay, that's going to give me a more narrowed focus. Now, assuming for a minute this is a 2-bedroom, they said it was a 3-1, I think. So what you're going to look for is 3-1s that are in the same basic condition. I don't really see any of those. I'm more comfortable, though, obviously, with a 2-bedroom. So I'm going to look at these and go, okay, a 2-bedroom is going to rent for $950, 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath. These are all nicer properties, but they're condos for $950. This one's going to rent for $800. This is a 1-1. All in the same area. Here's a 1-1 for $800. So I know my rent is going to be between $800 and probably $900, somewhere in between there. So I'm going to use $800 as my number, as my rent. I'll probably get more than that because I have more bedrooms than this. Okay, so once I understand the elements of this, I say, okay, if I have, let me do a calculator here, just a regular calculator. And if I put in there and I say, let's say I get $825. Let's be realistic and say I get $825 a month. Okay, and I take that and I multiply that times 12. My yearly rent, provided no vacancies, is almost $10,000, $9,900. Okay? If you remember, Dustin, can you remember what we paid in insurance? I'm sorry, taxes. It was $1,217 for taxes in 2010. Now, without getting your insurance agent involved to know that, you can call your insurance agent and say, hey, if I have square footage, what would my placement costs or my insured value be per square footage as just a general guideline so I can figure insurance. But anyways, I'll say this is going to be somewhere around $750. I'm guessing, but $750 a year. Might be a little less. But so what other expenses would you have in this property? You're always going to have taxes, you're always going to have insurance, but are there going to be any other expenses? Okay? Anybody know? Dustin, anyone raising their hand, offering?
Tell us, guys. Okay, Mohammed said repair. Ron said
Repairs.
vacancy.
You have repairs. You have vacancies. Okay? Those are good. So I'm going to show you how I do it. I fix property. The only thing that NOI does not include is your mortgage. Don't include your mortgage as an expense. Principal and interest does not include that. So let's put repairs and vacancies off to the side for a second, because let's kind of see what we've got. So if you take the gross operating income on this, which is $9,900, that's 825 times 12, and then you subtract out 1,217 for insurance, and then taxes, and then 750 for insurance. That gives me an NOI of $7,933. That's basically net operating income. Now, the other thing that I take into consideration is I use either an 8 or a 10% management fee, because I want to give this to somebody else. And if I go to sell it, I want to prepay a year's worth of management, so I want to package it up. Okay? So I take that out of this too. So if I'm going to do, let's say 8%, call it $80 a month, times 12, what's that? 80 times 12 is 960. Okay, so I have my 7,933 minus 960. So my net operating income on that property is $6,973. But we don't want to sync. Whoops, hold on. Sorry, I think I just shut myself down here. There we go. So then we go into the app and we change this to $6,973. Okay, that is your net operating income. I want a cap rate of 15%, and then when I touch the equal sign under value, it's going to give me $46,486.67. That is what I can sell this for on the open market to a foreign money, because if they want a 15% cap rate. So now you got to look at it and you got to go, okay, $46,000 is what I can sell this thing for. Will that fly in this neighborhood? Okay, so we go back to Zillow, and this is how you're going to do this. So if you want to wholesale this thing to somebody and you want to make, let's say, 10 grand. Okay, and these are easy sales to make if you can structure a deal this way and buy the property right. So I think somebody with if you can show them with a 15% cap rate with these comps right here, they'll buy this property for $46,000. You can find a buyer for that fairly easy. So now you got to figure out, well, what can I buy it for? What do I have to pay for this thing? All right, so I want you to think about what else goes into this. Okay, so let's take a look at, let me change my paper here to just plain paper. So if my ultimate sales price is 46,000, what did I say it was? 46, we'll call it 46.4. That's now my ARV. And then only thing left I have to really take into consideration is what do I have to put in it to fix it up so that I could get that person in there for $825. Okay, so let's say that's $10,000. All right, so whoops. So now you are at 36.4, and you want to make 10, right? Or 5, or 2, or 2,500. But I wouldn't do this for just a couple $1,000s. I wouldn't renovate it and do it. But you could just buy it, put it under contract, factoring in the renovation under your net operating expenses. So instead of just using taxes and insurance and the property manager, you're also going to factor in the $10,000 in your calculations. Okay, so you have to buy this for we'll just say $26,500. So if you buy this thing for $26,500, put 10 in it, you can sell it for $46,000 pretty consistently. Now this does two things. If you put a section in it, they may go up to $850, $875, which actually takes that up a little further, which I don't know that you'll be able to get it up higher than that because of the comps in the neighborhood. I don't know that you're going to be able to get it more than $46,000. You'll be okay with 46, but you're not going to push that envelope that much higher. But it will make it a higher sellable product. Put a Section 8 tenant in there. Your 15% cap rate will actually go up if you get $875 a month. Your cap rate will go up as long as you stay with that $46,000. I'll show you what I mean by that. If I leave the $46,000 right here, and I change my net operating income, instead of, let's say, it goes up by $50 a month. So what is that? Well, that's $600. That's $600, additional $600. So what is that? 75, 73. So 75, 73. It's actually a 16.3 cap rate. So you can market that thing as a 16.3% cap rate. And that really opens ears to especially foreign money, because that's the yardstick that people use. So when you start thinking in that arena, that's the other thing. Other investors in the United States, they may talk that way, they may not. But that's how people are looking at this. Okay? So then, when you start going into this, let's say you get a $875 Section 8 tenant in there. You have it Section 8, it's guaranteed rent. You have a management company managing it for 12 months. So you have a guaranteed Section 8 tenant, higher than market rent, and it's managed by someone for 12 months, and they don't have to pay for it. It's already factored in there. That's a pretty strong deal that you can now buy it and you can either buy it and hold it, because once you're done with this, you have $875 coming in every month. Okay, so how much would you have to borrow to make this deal happen? Well, you'd have to be all in for $36,500 or $36,400. So on a mortgage on $36,400, hopefully I'm not going over people's head or I'm not going too fast, but if you had a mortgage of $36,000, we'll call it $36,500 to make it easy. At 9% for 30 years, you're talking about a payment of $293.69. Let me let that catch up for you so you can all see that. You can see down there, $293. Come down here, and put your insurance of, say, $750 in there, and your property taxes of, what did I say they were? What did I say they were? $1,217. So you are all into this deal for $457.60. Okay? You're all into this deal. Taxes, insurance. Okay? So you got $457. And so if you take, put my calculator up there, and you have 875 minus, what did I say that was? 457 minus 457 minus, can anybody else tell me what I need to minus out of that? $80 management fee. Okay, and then any maintenance you would, ongoing maintenance. But if you're renovating it, you won't have any maintenance at first. Very little. You'll have a little. So you're looking at $338 a month cash flow. All, you know, once everything's paid, whether you sell this to somebody else or not, you got $338 coming in on the use of that money at 9%. Okay, so now you can take your time on selling this thing and find a buyer. But in the meantime, it's making you money. Does that make sense? Dustin, does that make sense to you?
It makes sense. How about the audience? Send in your response via the GoToWebinar interface. Any questions you have for Don?
So that's what I call like a universal way of evaluating this deal or a deal. The other way I do it is I use a spreadsheet that I created. Same concept, same principle behind it. Okay? So let me back up a second. So if you are going to buy this house, let me go back a second. Go back to this example here. You're going to pay, if you pay more than $26,500 for this property, and that number is right here. Okay, because you got the 46 minus, figure a $10,000 profit, and rehab, or I had to switch one or the other. Okay, so you got your profit in there of $10,000, and you have the rehab. Now, here's the other catch. If you hang on to this, and you can either pull $10,000 out of this deal as a wholesale deal and keep it yourself. So you find a private lender that's going to give you $46,000. Okay, you can pull $10,000 out of this yourself as a wholesale fee, and do the rest of the rehab for $10,000 and hold on to it. Now, what you've essentially created is the best of both worlds. You were able to pull stuff out as long as you don't over leverage the property. And what you'll probably find out is on a $46,000 note, all things being equal, your payment on that is $538. And if you got $875 coming in, minus 538, you got $10,000 wholesale fee, you still own the property, and now you're making $337 a month. That's how you extract money out of a property, as long as you don't over leverage it. That's
now, Don,
the key. Yes.
We had a question come in from Mike.
Yep.
He said, "Why not lease purchase the property to a tenant buyer and they have responsibility for maintenance? That way you don't get you get an upfront down payment."
You can do that, but I'm going to tell you you can do that, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but you can do that. There's a lot of people that will tell you that you can do that, but my experience has been in this market, nobody has money. So here's the problem with that, and this is the problem. This is why I've kind of shied away from lease purchases. Now, if I'm going to do a higher end property for $150,000 or up, I'll do a lease purchase all day long. But on these lower end properties, some of these folks, if you're going to get market rent people, they're not going to be able to come up with the down payment that you want. They're not going to have the guarantee. Like, I personally like to put Section 8 in there. And the reason I like to do that, and people get afraid of it, they're like, well, isn't Section 8 dangerous? Don't they tear up your house? Not anymore. I mean, I shouldn't say that. No more than any other market rent tenant. And probably actually nowadays less. And the reason I say that is because these people are in this, they get a Section 8 voucher. If they screw it up, you can actually throw that or get them kicked out of the program. They do not want to be thrown out of this program. Because, I mean, I've had people say they've been in the program 30, 40 years and that they're going to work the system and they're not going to do anything outside the lines because they don't want to lose their voucher. So you have that so-called upper hand or leverage on the situation with the Section 8. With a market rent tenant, if they lose their job, guess what? You're looking for rent because the last thing that's going to get paid is rent. I hate to say it in most cases. So I used to do a lot of that, and you can do that. But I'm going to tell you, if you put a market rent tenant in there, you run the risk of them having very little down payment. They're not going to pay as much. You're not going to get as much money as you would a Section 8, typically. Not always, but typically. Again, there's exceptions to every rule. And if they tear that house up, now you got to renovate it again, and then you got to go through the same headache. Whereas me, I don't have to worry about that for 1 year until my recertification comes up, and then it's just an inspection, and they say, "Yep, it's good." And I mean, every month I get an email that says, "You've got money. The Section 8 department just deposited, $850 into your account." And I don't have to go collect rent. I don't have to worry about, God, I wonder if rent's going to, I don't have to go to my post office box and look and see if I got a rent check, hold my breath and open it up and go, "Oh, wow, I didn't get anything today," and then go back the next 2 or 3 days. That's just me. Okay, that's just a personal choice. You can do it however you want. So if that works for you, absolutely. So I'm just showing you different ways how you can make money in this, still hold on to the property. Okay, if you don't want to put that $10,000, well, let's go back. If you don't want to put that $10,000, oops, wrong one. If you don't want to put that $10,000 profit in your pocket, so then you just buy it for 36. So let me see. I'm not sure. Oh, my computer. I think what happens is my computer kind of goes to sleep, my other computer, and it kind of throws everything off. Okay, so we're running short on time, but I'm going to show you one other way before we let everyone go. But like here, if you look, I could, if I didn't want to pay myself that $10,000 right there in the middle as profit, I could just buy this thing for, I could just borrow $36,000. I'm still under the market there. I've got a $10,000 rehab, and then my monthly income is cheaper. I'm just showing you different ways to structure how you can get money out of a property, and you don't always have to think like a wholesaler or how. I mean, I'm trying to give you ways to do the best of both worlds, if you will. So if I take that, if I go back and I show you now, there's another way to do this, and this is how I do it. Unless I have an investor that talks to me in the 15% cap range, it's real easy for me. As long as I know the information. This is a easy spreadsheet that I use. I used it the other night at the general meeting. Some people may have picked up on it, some people may not have. But it's real easy. I just go in here and I click on the rent. So if I say my rent is $875, my taxes is $1217, my insurance, let's say, is $750, my vacancy rate, let's just say that's 1 month. 8.35 is 1 month vacancy. So let's use that as an expense in there, because by the time you get this thing up and running, it's going to be 1 month in the hole. So you're going to have 1 month out of that 12 that you're not going to get income. So it's not that. So when you start backing out your net operating income, for example, that's 1 month that you're backing out of that. You got an 8% management fee, or it could be 10. Okay, and then you come down, you say, okay, what am I borrowing the money at? I'm going to borrow the money at, say, 9% for 360 months. Now, people go, who's going to lend you money for 30 years? Nobody. But you borrow money based on a 30-year AM to make it easy to calculate payment. Okay? You might want to put, and this is what we'll cover on Saturdays, we'll cover, how do you get the private lenders? How do you structure the deal? How do you get them to say yes? Because people say, when I start talking about this, people say, well, Don, nobody's going to lend me money for 30 years. They don't lend me money either. I put a 35-month balloon on all my notes. And that's just the way I am, because in 35 months, I got to make a choice. Do I sell the property? Do I refinance it? Do I just continue making payments if they're happy? Okay? So then you got a $10,000 rehab cost in there. And then all I do is I come over here and I say, what would I be happy with? Would I be happy with a $400 a month cash flow after all my expenses are paid? So then all I do is I look over to the left, and you'll see the number at the top. It'll say 400. Now this spreadsheet, for example, let me make it a little smaller so you can see the top. This principal and interest payment at the top, let me let it catch up. There it is. That number that you're seeing on that top spreadsheet is all in. I got to be all in for, in this case, $20,881.94. I got to be, in order for me to make $400 a month, I got to be all in, including my rehab costs, for $20,000. But more importantly, the number that you really need to look at is the one in the spreadsheet below, where it says amount you can offer. I go down, it says $400. The most I can make is $10,000, or the most I can offer for this property is $10,881.94. If I offer a penny more, I'm not making $400 a month. If I want $350, now ours was $337, was what we said at a, what was it, a 16% cap rate or 15% cap rate, whatever it was. Okay. So that would be somewhere between $3 and $350 in this spreadsheet. So I would have to pay between $23 and $17 for this property, which, if I remember correctly, if you did the cap rate version, take that back. Sorry, I don't mean to be jumping around. $26.5 is what we said we had to pay for it. So in my model, I'm actually exceeding the cap rate. I'm actually exceeding the cap rate. So when I buy a house, I guarantee you I'm higher than a 15% cap rate. But I don't look at it that way. I look at it in my sheet like this and say, okay, I want $400 a month. I really could give a hoot about cap rate. Okay? Because I base everything on there being a loan of a certain amount on the property. Now, cap rate works better if it basically takes any of the loan amount out, and you're really talking apples to apples at that point. Because a lot of these investors that you're selling to, they're going to be paying all cash. So they're looking at a cap rate. That's their yardstick. So, Dustin, I got a ton of more stuff that I could cover, but I know we're 15 minutes late. Almost 15 minutes late.
Yeah, so why don't you tell them that you're going to pick up here where you left off in that upcoming workshop? Tell them what you're going to be covering there.
Well, what we're going to cover there is we're going to cover everything from start to finish. At the workshop, what I typically do, and I'll tell you how my day gets set up. In the morning, when we first get in there, we talk about what's stopping you and why you're not getting where you need to be. Then we're going to go into how do you get to how do you get your phone to ring? And throughout the entire day, I'm going to be using my iPad, so you're going to see all the stuff that I do and how I do it. I mean, things like I'm going to walk you through what I call a day in the life of a mobile real estate superstar. And what I mean by that is how you market, how you research it, how you do your due diligence, how you make your offers. I'm going to show you how to write offers on the iPad and go virtually paperless if you want. We're going to do a lot of deal structuring. We're going to talk about private money towards the end of the day. I tell you how to get the money, where to get the money, who to talk to. We go over things like nonverbal cues, neuro-linguistic programming, how to negotiate like a pro. Things that you need to make sure that you touch on to get people to say yes. Those are all, it's going to be a whole day. I'm going to take you through a day in the life of, and by the end of it, you'll be able to find them. We'll talk about how to rehab them, what you should be doing, what's working in this environment, what's not working in this environment. I'll give you my opinions as to, where I think the direction is going. And it's just going to be probably more information than you're prepared for. So it's going to be a great day. And a lot of this is going to be new or different than if you've seen me before. Obviously, we're going to be covering the fundamentals. If you're brand new, it's a perfect seminar if you're brand new. If you're experienced, it's a great seminar because I'm going to teach you stuff you've not seen before to make you more efficient, more productive, and quite honestly, make you more money. Because I'll teach you how to be a transaction engineer. You'll be able to pick up anything. Like we're going to go through and figure out, should I buy this subject to? Should I buy it on an option? Should I buy it on a lease option? Okay. Is it even feasible, or should I even consider a contract for deed or an agreement for deed? I'm going to tell you right now, if you've heard of that and are planning on using that in the state of Georgia, don't. If you want to know why, come see me on Saturday, because I will completely talk you out of that. Because I think that's one of the worst ideas out there. Not to mention legally and from a, because I've been in seminars where they say, well, you can just evict them if they don't pay. Wrong. Wrong answer. It doesn't happen that way in reality. So we're going to cover all those things, what to do, what not to do. And it's going to be a great day. And, we're going to have it it's going to be a full day.
A full day of quality training and at a very, very ridiculously affordable price. So hopefully, like I said, you guys will attend and return the favor. Like I said, Don shares a lot of really good information with you guys. He attends a lot of our meetings, and you guys are he's always accessible and always stays late. He always networks. We were out at the Tilt-A-Kilt last night in Buford pretty late last night, talking about the iPad, talking about technology, talking about politics. He's awesome. So please come out and join him at this one-day workshop. It's the first time it's ever been offered. And, Don, I know you were encouraging real estate agents and brokers to attend, too.
Yep. Anybody that wants to learn to be a go mobile, because I mean, let me just talk about that for 1 second. I hadn't really planned on that, but I want people to understand. 2 years ago, I had this epiphany when the iPad came out, and it was the iPad that really made me just go, this is it. Because for years, I mean, I was a pretty heavy, and still am, buyer and seller of real estate. And when you're in the market and when you're in the trenches buying and selling, you're always looking for ways to be more efficient and to take shortcuts and things. And I never had that. I always wanted, I've tried it with tablets before, the computer tablets. They were expensive. They just didn't have the battery life. They just didn't have what it took. And when the iPad came out a couple years ago, I thought to myself, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. So I've spent the last 2 years just going through and developing not just a system for myself, but a system that anybody can pick up, because anybody that has an iPad, most people use it they use it for email, searching the web, and games. If that's what you think this is, you definitely need to show up on Saturday, because I'm going to show you how you can run your entire life, not just your business, but your entire life on your iPad. I mean, some of the things that I do with mine that you probably haven't even thought of, you will go out of there and go, wow, I had no idea. Because there is not an event I have ever spoken at that people haven't come out of there and said, you know what, at first I wasn't even considering this, but I got to have one of these. And, and I'll tell you which device I think is best based on your situation. Some people like the iPhone. Some people say, well, can't I just use an iPhone or an Android phone? You can, but you're going to get about 70% of what you could be getting. Because the iPad or in a tablet form, and they're all getting better every day. The reason I like the iPads is because Apple has more apps than anybody else, bar none. And they're way ahead of everybody else in that department. Now, that's going to change, because as people develop, they're going to develop one for each system. But right now, they're the leader, and they have the most apps out there, which stands to reason. If you have the most apps, there's really, we laugh about it and we say, oh, there's an app for that. Well, there is. I can pretty much guarantee you anything you have or want, there's an app for it. You just need to know what it is and how to use it. I can show you how to do cash flows on properties, how to keep track of your books, how to keep track of all your expenses, how to keep track of your schedule, how to keep track of all your leads, everything, all in the palm of your hand. Now, some people go, I just want to learn about real estate. Well, that's there too. I mean, you can't just have the sexiness of the iPad and not have, you got the sizzle and the steak, as they say. The iPad is the sizzle. The real estate is where steak is.
Exactly.
And when you marry the two together, you got one powerful individual. You got one powerful thing in the palm of your hands. So I'm not going to just give you sizzle. I'm going to give you everything you need to make more money in 2012 than you thought possible.
Yep,
and do it in the most efficient way.
The technology just makes it easier for us to do this. It gives us those, seemingly superhuman strength. It lets us do so much more with a lot less effort.
Absolutely. And if I can teach an 80-year-old woman how to use this like a pro, I can teach anybody. And that's not, I don't want that to come across as a negative or disparaging remark. But let's face it, you know, when you, and this goes for any people above 45, they have a tendency to be afraid of technology. And I'm here to tell you, the smart devices, the iPhones and the iPads and the Androids of the world, they are becoming so easy to use and so intuitive that all it takes is a little nudge and say, okay, here's what you do. And once I walk you through it one time, you're like, wow, I had no idea.
And I'm glad you said that, because, you know, I got the iPad recently at your suggestion, and there is a bit of a learning curve. And by hanging around you, I've gotten past that learning curve much, much faster.
Yeah, I mean, you have to understand, I spend all day on this thing. And you will too. Once you get it in your hand and you start using it,
yeah,
you will find yourself using it more and more and more. I mean, I give you a perfect example. I was in St. Louis this past weekend. My wife, unfortunately, had to stay here. My son had a hockey tournament there. And she was so upset she couldn't see it, and we had the championship game. So she invited everybody over to the house. She hooked up Skype to the TV, and I Skyped the entire game. Now, if you don't know what Skype is, it's basically I filmed it and sent it with my iPhone over the internet so that my wife could watch it. Yeah, she couldn't be there.
You streamed it live.
I streamed it live, all from the palm of my hand.
Did you do that with the iPad or the iPhone?
I did that with my iPhone.
Yeah.
But I could do it with the iPad too. I could do it with the iPad too. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And if you guys don't know what Skype it is, it's like video chat or text chat. It's been around for quite some while. I highly recommend it. It's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, almost all of my meetings now are done either via Skype.
I use it a lot.
I use it a lot because I get to see the person. We talk about it. It's just like sitting next to them. I don't have to go to a place now to meet somebody and say, hey, let's Skype. So I'm going to show you how to use all of that in your business.
And we just had a question come in. It was a good one. We're talking about this workshop and everything. He was asking, is it possible to use a laptop in place of an iPad?
To do what?
I think he's talking about, being a mobile real estate superstar.
Laptops have been around forever. So you can use a laptop. Do I recommend them? No, I don't. Not with the invention of the tablets. Because, number one, your laptop is bulky, even if you've got a small one. It doesn't last. I mean, the iPad battery is 10 hours at a minimum. My last, I don't plug mine in until I unplug it at 7 o'clock in the morning, and generally speaking, mine's at 26% right now, and it's at 8:30 at night.
Yeah, I've been listening to music all day on mine, and I still got over 55% charge.
Right. So when you start, and it doesn't have all the apps, you can't get the apps on a laptop. You can't get because part of using this as a true system is when I go, for example, and I'll cover this on Saturday, like when I go put in all my expenses, you can't take a picture of an expense or a receipt, load it right into your iPad from your iPad, and then load it right into QuickBooks right from there. You can't do that on a laptop. There's too many steps involved.
Yep. Okay?
For example, you can log your mileage on a logbook, but then you got to go for my iPad, I just push a couple buttons, and my iPad literally follows me around everywhere I go all day. And I don't have to push any other buttons. So at the end of the day, I push one button in the morning and one button at night, and it says I drove 86 miles that day, and it shows me everywhere I stopped, and it puts it on a map and tells me how much money I made that day or how much money I can deduct that day. And if I want, I can put it in a logbook automatically, or I can send it to my accountant to have him keep it in a file so that I don't ever have to report that to him even also.
So that was a great question from Jay, and the PC is great. It'll definitely make you mobile, but having a Droid, a smartphone, or iPad to have all those really cool apps that just make things so much easier, and it works in close conjunction with your PC or Mac.
Sure, absolutely.
So you're going to want to get one sooner or later.
I will tell you this. Right now, the iPad, Android, the tablets cannot replace a function of a laptop. And what I mean by that is it can do 90, I mean, for example, what I tell people, I tell everybody this, and a laptop is for, or any computer, desktop, laptop, whatever, full-size computer is for creativity. A iPad or Android tablet is for productivity. For example, if I'm going to do a huge spreadsheet and I got a lot of data to manipulate and put in there, am I going to be doing that all the time, or is that usually going to be a one-time thing? It's usually going to be a one-time thing. Or if I create some kind, like this sheet that I showed you that had the principal and interest payments and the amount I can offer, that was a form that I created on a laptop. And then I use it on my iPad. I only created it once. I only needed to create it once. And that was, could I have created it on the iPad? Absolutely. But it's much more difficult because everything's so much more confined. Whereas on a computer, you got mouse, you got, it's just different. I mean, you got a keyboard that's easier to use, the whole 9 yards. People ask me, can I just buy an iPad and not a PC? If you have an extra PC that you're not using, or that's an old one, the answer to that question is yes, your iPad is all you will need. Because the likelihood of you using, like I have a Mac computer right now. I barely use it. The only time I ever use it is when I do a seminar. I just use my iPad for everything. But there are times when I use a PC. But in the field, 100% iPad.
Don, I think there may be a little confusion.
Okay. I'm not confused.
No, but Jay asked, hey, if this mobile Superstar Workshop is for people with an iPad, I don't have an iPad. No. Should I still come?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, this has, what I'm going to teach you on Saturday is good for even if you don't have an iPad or don't even want an iPad. I'm going to teach you how to make money in real estate. I'm just, as I go through this, because I'm on my iPad, you're going to see how powerful it is. And I can promise you, Jay, when you leave there, you're going to want an iPad.
Oh, yeah. We're going to
promise you that.
Don's going to show you how high-tech real estate investors operate. That's what he meant by when he said it was a day in the life of a mobile media superstar.
But if you don't have any electronic devices like that, you don't have an iPhone, if you have a dumb phone and you don't have anything like that, you will still learn a ton because remember, you got sizzle and you have steak. I'm going to give you steak all day long. Whether you have one of these devices or not, the fundamentals are the fundamentals. I'm going to teach you how to make money in real estate. Okay, but then I'm also going to teach you how to do it efficiently.
Absolutely.
I'll show you how it can be done efficiently. Some people aren't going to be ready for that. Financially, mentally, that's okay. But I want you to see what's out there. I want you to know what you're missing so you understand, okay, well, when I'm ready, this might be the direction I need to go.
Now, Mike wrote in with a pretty good question that you might not have been asked before. But you know that Amazon recently came out with a Kindle Fire, which was designed to compete, especially on price, with the iPad. Is this applicable? Is this workshop going to be applicable to things he can do with the Kindle Fire?
Does he have one?
It sounds like it.
Yes. You're going to run into the same thing that everybody else runs into that doesn't have an iPad. You're going to probably be able to do 70 to 80% of everything that I talk about because there's a lot of mutual apps out there, both for iPad and Android and Amazon. But there are going to be some things that you're going to have to do a workaround.
Exactly.
Because you're just not going to have the app that an iPad will give you. So,
Yep.
But again, $199 versus $499 or $899 or $699 or whatever, $829. You know. So I mean, you have to know the limits of it. I'm probably going to go buy a Kindle Fire so I can play with it.
Yeah, I mean the price is right.
Yeah, I mean cheap enough where when I'm done, I'll just give it to my wife.
So everybody, no matter whether you have a PC, a notebook, a netbook, an iPad, an iPod, an iPhone, a Droid, whatever, this is going to be a workshop you want to attend. Because whether you have those things or not, you're going to want them because we're going to show you how a high-tech home buyer and seller does it. So you'll at least know that when you walk out of that workshop.
I can guarantee you this. When you come, if you don't think it was well worth every penny, I'll refund your money. I'll refund your money and make sure that you leave happy. Because I will tell you this, and I do this on my boot camps too. I do a 5-day boot camp, and my guarantee on my boot camp is you come for all 5 days. You come till the very end. You can stay till the very end. If you don't think it was worth every penny that you paid for it, you come to the end, and not only will I refund your money for whatever you paid, if you came from out of town, I pay for your hotel bill too. So that's usually that's my philosophy. I give you more than you pay for.
And it's going to be a great event. So I'm just going to repeat what I told you guys earlier. It is on January the 28th. It's at the Atlanta Perimeter Hotel and Suites. That's the exact same place we have our main monthly meeting, right there by Perimeter Mall, formerly the W Hotel. It's going to be, I believe, from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. Going to give you time to, take a lunch. And registration, check-in will be right around 8:30. And again, it's $10 for gold members, $20 for silver members, $30 for guests. And the price is good for 2 people. You can bring a guest, whether they're an Atlanta REIA member or not, for this price. And you can sign up right now at superstar.atlantareia.com. These prices are the early bird prices. They will go up next week. So sign up tonight. Take advantage. Seating is limited, of course. We rented a room that has, limited seating in there, so sign up as soon as possible to reserve your spot. First come, first serve. Any other questions, please let us know. You know how to reach us at Atlanta REIA. Go to atlantareia.com and use the Contact Us form and let us know. We've got a lot of different meetings throughout the month. Come check us out. Several of you typed in and asked if we were recording this webcast. Absolutely. We record all of our webcasts and make them available to you on the Atlanta REIA member-only site. So if you're not an Atlanta REIA member, you should be. It's only $100 a year, and you'll get access to all of our replays that we've done with Don and everybody else on atlantareia.com. So I'll have this one up probably tomorrow, sometime tomorrow afternoon or early morning, if possible, if you want to listen to it again. Did a great call, Don. Excellent information. Let's everybody give Don a big virtual round of applause via the GoToWebinar interface. Yay!
I've never seen a virtual applause before.
Yeah. Well, everybody's saying thank you, great job, awesome, fabulous. That was great. So we're getting a lot of positive feedback. And they were giving me a lot of feedback throughout the webcast. And I think you answered most of their questions. I asked you a few of the ones that you didn't directly. So great job. We really appreciate it.
Good.
Look forward to seeing you again on the 28th. So everybody sign up again, superstar.atlantareia.com, so you can become a mobile real estate superstar or a mobile real estate rock star. So check it out. Thanks again, Don.
You
Good
bet.
night and God bless. We'll talk to you real soon. Good night, everyone. Thank you all for being here.